Hey, how's it going?
1 second. How's it going?
Slow today.
Yeah.
I was gonna give up in 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, you still can. What's new?
Oh, so I spent some time with Claude Code,
Oh, good for you.
and you're right, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the Dave and Dave, the other podcast that we've been doing, the we did a quick demo, just a sketchy little demo using Aider, um,
Yeah.
and so I just spent like 20 minutes just fleshing out a spec for a project with ChatGPT first. So I had a document that says, here are the things that I want, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just playing pure product, right? I'm no code,
Yeah.
just product. I want that I do these things, I do these tasks, and I want to produce a UI. I know I've never built UI tools at all. So I
Yeah.
want to build a UI tool that does these things, right? And
Yeah.
so did that. We did the podcast with Aider, so we spent about 40 minutes just back and forth with Aider to get it to produce some things. Had to feed it some documentation, right? Because it doesn't go fetch documentation on its own.
Yeah.
Um, and when I did that, that helped it, and we were able to get a Python UI that met my basic criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Do full implementation of all the pieces, but all the important parts of the UI work, can manage files, etc. And then we had another 20 minutes. We're like, well, let's see if we could build a Go version, knowing it's going to be worse at doing Go, right? Because and this is 4.0 API, I think I used for all of this, and
Yeah.
and so it got a broken prototype that we never got the UI to work fully, and had it update all the documentation for it to say where the state of the Python and Go projects were. So last week I was like, well, I'm working on the tool. I'm working on the system that would like to have that UI tool again.
Mm-hmm.
So here I am back in product mode, doing the things. I was like, well, let me just drop Claude Claude Code into that project.
Yeah.
Um, and with all the existing docs and everything that had been built by Aider before,
Yeah.
and my original spec, and let it go. Had to poke it, give it some direction here and there, right? And then start testing it and then just evolving, saying, okay, I fire it up. I'm like, this doesn't look that good. Its screenshot input is possible, but a little painful. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
used it.
Yeah. Yeah. It is painful. Yeah. Are you
But
on a Mac?
it automatically went and fetched new documentation and said, okay, look,
Yeah.
I need to find out how this thing is actually supposed to work, and did all of that. And it built me a functional tool. And it built the
Right.
Go version, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, wow, cool. So
Um, are you on a Mac or
yeah, what am
PC?
I?
Yeah. I think so. I've been actually paying attention to the repo for Claude Code and looking at the issues that are being logged. And I think actually the attaching the screenshots seems to be a better experience. In Mac, it's somebody said this. I'm not a Mac user. Normally, you would press one key and V to paste.
Uh-huh. Command. Yeah.
It's Control and V.
Interesting. Okay. So
So it was like it's not your. So maybe try it.
yeah. Because the thing I found is that I had to like save the screenshot as a file and then give it the path to that file and it would work.
That's what I'm doing on Windows, but somebody said it's just using the other key. Um,
After I finished recovering from the power outage that shut down all of my UPSs yesterday.
oh,
Yeah. It all the UPSs turned off, turned back on. I'm like, wait, what? And I mean all of them, like 12 UPSs around the house,
yeah.
all turned off and turned back on. I've never had that happen. So it
Wait,
wasn't
you have 12 UPSs?
yeah, between the TV, the stereo equipment, these computers, those computers, computers out in the shop. I mean, um, the all the chargers for where Mary's computers are, you know,
Mm.
yeah, because hers are all portables. So.
You're much. I have zero UPSs, so 12 seems like an astronomical number.
Michael,
Um, Hey, thanks. That's actually my next task at home is to start putting everything on UPSs.
Yeah.
Like we get a lot of storms here in East Texas, especially this time of year. And our cities are not super good at maintaining the vegetation on the power lines. So uh, I have a generator. And before I take the step of making it a whole home generator, I need to get the UPSs in place and
Yeah.
uh, get those ready so I can just let them run and then quickly get the generator turned on and show that it works. So
yeah, my generator is not it will run it does run the whole house, but I have to get up, go outside, flip some switches and some breakers, and then crank the generator up and engage it and all of that. So it takes a couple of minutes. Um, on a good day, it takes a couple of minutes. Sometimes one of the batteries has gone bad, or the in one of the internal relays on the generator lately has decided that it won't send power back, and I have to turn the whole thing off, start it back up. So,
yeah,
yeah, there we go. But
those auto power detection features that you can add on to any home, like whole home generators, are expensive.
yeah, this
They're
is a
really
military
expensive.
generator. This is a retired military generator. So
Oh,
What
nice.
what what do you think caused the outage for all 12 of them to
I think it was a lightning hit. So
oh, was it? A
we
spike?
yeah. So I think the surge caused them to just shut down for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But that's part of why all of my equipment is on UPSs, because the UPSs are line interactive, so they are never running online. All of the equipment is running off of the battery.
Mm,
And so the the UPS and the charger might take, and even the battery might take the hit, or the inverter might take the hit. But that way, nothing that's plugged into them is ever directly exposed to line. This
I
is
see.
Florida, so we get lightning a lot. We get lightning strikes a lot, but this is the first time I've ever experienced that where they all shut down.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
I wonder, I was watching some doomsday thing where the guy was talking about like solar flares being a really big issue. And I was wondering if there might have been a recent solar flare that just, because they're getting northern lights, so
right.
far down where you shouldn't get northern lights.
Yeah, I've never experienced any problems from solar flares. I mean, it doesn't mean that the line infrastructure doesn't. But yeah.
Yeah.
So, Michael, what's your fractional story?
Mm. I'm not really sure I have I mean, it's a story, I suppose. Whether or not it's fractional, but I've been kind of doing piecemeal here and there. I think, my in my early career, before I got really, I was about 10 years in, fancied myself a software architect and basically just kept saying that's what I was until that's what I became.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, and
That's a
I
good approach.
think the last 5 years I've kind of been doing the same thing with CTO and fractional CTO
Right.
in my career. You just got to kind of put it out there and um, uh, say it until it becomes true. Um,
Welcome to the club. You're in the right place.
I've, but I'm a software developer by trade, but at the same time, since 2018, I've run my own business doing contracting, consulting, whatever throws me. And since 2019 until this year, I had my biggest client, it's my primary work. I essentially function for them as a very senior software developer slash CTO.
Yep.
You know, um, uh, they're in government, so they have weird names for everything. Consulting architect is technically what I was called, but at the same time, I worked with their one tech guy who handled everything for them. Um, didn't envy his job at all, but he was their chief product officer, and I'm like, it's you guys don't even have a CIO, no CTO, no data. Um, um, but that's how I've become it. That's how I started doing it. So I've recently, since they're in federal government human resources software, it's been a bit of a hard road for them the last 6 months. Um, uh, And so they had to bring me down to no hours. I still have a relationship with them. But I've been kind of focusing on building my business out and being fractional CTO, uh, is one of the offerings for my business at this point.
Cool. Welcome. So, Adam, you want to give us a quick rundown of where you are, since I know that you've been making some experiments?
Yeah, so Michael, very similar story. David knows my background a little bit, but started out as a software dev, ran very technical SDET teams for a while, moved into general engineering management for the rest of my career. And then now I've been flirting with fractional for a number of years, I'll say. And then I was doing fractional work, and one of my clients offered me to join them. And it happened to be an old CEO that I liked and trusted. So I joined them full time, and now I'm back to doing the fractional stuff. So I've been trying different pitches actually when I go out to. I live in Toronto, Canada. There's a big tech scene. So I will go out and try different hats on for different events. So it's a little weird sometimes because I'll be with people that know me, and then they'll hear me do a pitch and they're like, "Yeah, but aren't you doing that?" I'm like, "It depends on who I'm talking to." But I'm trying to, David's really good at encouraging us to do this, and so is Jonathan Stark, like niche down. So I started kind of broad. 2 weeks ago, I really doubled down, and I was like, the full-time job search is not working for me. I'm not getting any traction. So I doubled down on thinking about what's my niche. And I built and launched my website based off of documents that I had collected over the years. And then I'm continuing to refine that pitch down to, so I'll try it out on you guys. And David, is this going online?
It is going online. Yes,
I'm sure 4 people will
it's
see
not
it.
live today, but it is online. It will be posted probably in what, like 4 weeks, 5 weeks.
Yeah. So as I talk about the things that I'm good at and what I do, I realize that most of my career is doing the stuff that the engineers don't want to do. So software testing was one of them that was a big one that I happen to be really, really good at. Um, and automation, but I've done DevOps, and I've done, SOC 2, and I've done infrastructure, and I've done all those kinds of things. So right now I'm waste management for your technical team.
Yep.
So I'm working on this, or I'm the fixer. Like if you have DevOps, like David, you had a little bit of this in your pitch for a while. Like I help teams ship whenever they want. I remember your but it's this like it's a cross between like Sherlock Holmes investigative mindset and like being a fixer. So I came up upon this technical waste management, and a lot of my stories that I tell in interviews are about fixing these waste management things that are costing money. So that's I've gone from this niche of like this big down to like I'm like, okay, I'm technical waste management. Okay. And it's catchy, and it's kind of, kitschy a little
If
bit.
it sticks in their head, that can go a long way.
Yeah,
Um,
that was the thing. So it's like the idea is I'm technical waste management. Let your best engineers focus on what they need to do, which is writing new features. Let me handle the other stuff. And that other stuff can be like
right.
I have actually done every role within
That's where the generalist comes in.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I have yet to try it on an actual person that might be able to pay me. But I came up with it. I think today's Monday, last Thursday, and I was like, oh, that actually resonates. Like, because somebody asked me when I went into one of my clients, I'm like, what did you do? They said, and I was like, I was just an extra set of hands. Like, I set up Jira for them. I, decommissioned a bunch of accounts and saved them a bunch of money. I audited all the tools in the pipeline. And I was like, yeah, okay. And they're like, yeah, so you went and cleaned up all the waste. And I was like, Yeah, I kind of did. So,
It's a super interesting take on it. Like, and I think that I always tend to think that there's different, um, there's different slices in the view of CTOs, CIOs, however you want to do it, even and even into, you know, other C-suite type positions. And that honestly, that the right person, that whole right fit concept for any given client is based around those slices. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
A lot of CTOs I know are the actually I know about three different types. The one you mentioned, the waste management one, right? Then you have your hands-on super tech
yeah,
CTO. This is the
yeah,
one who's writing all the cutting edge code, right?
yeah,
And then handing that off to the team to continue to maintain and do,
yeah,
right? And then you have the business oriented one, which is the guy I used to work for here in Nacogdoches, at LA Electric Supply. That CIO, he was the guy who was going out there, talking to all the customers, getting the ideas, then hand that off to his team to
yeah,
do something with. It's not really a hands-on technical
yeah,
position, more so as it is a business position. And I think those different slices, each company has needs within them that will match up one of those positions. And now your lead generation there becomes finding the finding the groups that need the technical waste management, which is
yeah.
great to be able to position yourself a lot better and get those leads.
Yeah, that's how I like that's I thank you for that feedback. I that's in my brain is what's happening. I was like, "Oh, that's an example of niching down, but it's still handling my generalist, background where I've kind of I have done every role in product and engineering and I've gone deep on some of it. Yeah, that's no, it's I'm glad it's landing. I didn't think about the other two personas that you said.
The CTO is the CTO and CIO to a certain extent, although I don't spend much time in CIO circles. But the CTO job is very, very, very diverse. I mean, I wrote an article about just a fun article talking about the different hats of a CTO and like assigning different types of hats to all the different roles. And but even like the field CTO, right? The field CTO is a salesman. But it is also a CTO role. It's not
Mm,
responsible for actual delivery, but it is in a delivery org. It is in a, effectively a development shop, right? But this is the top solutions architect, sales architect type role. And you're getting out there, you're talking to customers, you're making sure that your team is delivering the things they need, all of that. And yet it's still a CTO role.
yeah.
Yeah. CEO
Steven
is
talked
top
about that,
salesman.
when he was here before, right? Yeah.
Yeah. CEO is sales. CTO is sales engineering. No, I mean, literally, but I like what Michael said. HashiCorp as example, Mitchell just wanted to make shit and throw it over the fence. Literally, that's kind of how it started. Armand also helped make shit, but it was kind of like, hey, I like the business side, right? And then their CEO was like almost an accounting guy, right? With Janet. And so like, you know, but they needed strong sales then, right? Like, so there's these things, cause like, taking Mitchell to sales calls was like, no, like he's not. So, I mean, he's just not a salesperson. So I like what Michael said too. Like there is that, and you might be one person in different times.
Yeah, you absolutely could be. You could, you know, well, actually, it's not even about recognition. It's like, you could recognize it or you could not recognize the fact that, like, you could say, I'm wearing these different hats. And what you're doing is you're putting on the need of the company you're with, your company, you're putting on that hat for that particular need. And some people like to differentiate real hard and call it, well, now I'm playing the CEO role and
Right.
now we're playing this one.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made, you know, that I'm me, even when I'm running my own company, I'm always a CTO.
Right.
I'm just doing the sales portion of it, or I'm doing this slice of it, doing that slice of it. But like, see, I go back to one of the things I was doing in I really want to pick it back up, is 2018 to 2020. And it sounds so campy, but I was putting together just these sort of like human psychology principles around business owners. It, something as dumb as I have these two lines, this matrix, and this line I have to go back and find the documentation and get it, but the y-axis is this on this side and this on the other side, and the x-axis same thing. You have two different, these different attributes and different qualities along these axes. And what it really boiled down to was, I found out what it stemmed from was the fact that here, working especially locally in East Texas, we had some good tech, but we don't have a lot of tech, right? It's not huge. But most people here who are small business owners, medium-sized business owners, and even a couple of the large corporations, the owners of the companies tend to fall into a pretty singular category. And actually, I hear this is true across America: owner operators.
Yeah.
And so I started there, right? I said, this is the type of person, these are the personality traits. This is most people, you get stuck in that owner operator mentality. You're doing everything, right? Well, what's the opposite of that at this other end? An architect who builds an entire plan, an entire structure,
and never even walks into the building.
Can't execute it.
Right.
Like,
has no idea how to build it, has no idea even necessarily how to engineer it.
Yeah. Theory and applied, like same in physics, right?
Yeah. And so I don't want to buy this, but I think that applies, and again, I was applying it to business owners, but actually I think it applies to people in the company, and that a combination of these different things is really what is a measure of success, is a measure of what it takes to be successful. We're not, I know a bunch of people who would like to think, when we take on these little software projects, in our field, when you take on this little software project, somebody locally comes to you and says, I want you to build me an app. And you're like, well, actually, that's a pretty good idea. Right. Like, so let me help you build it. Right. It's going to cost you some money, but let me help you build it. They like to think that their technical expertise is the only thing needed to make it successful. And yet what I tell all my people who are going to do that, like, I can build you the best damn app in the world. Right. But if you can't sell it, even if it is the best thing in the world, if you can't sell it, I'm out, because I don't do that. Right.
Yeah.
I need people who are outside of my skill set to do that. And I think when you look at that, when you look at what's common, it's really, really hard for business owners in general, because they're in that owner operator mindset, to even fathom taking on a fractional CTO type position.
They're stuck in
because they got to do it themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
The angel investor I worked with back in 06, 07, he was drilling in. I was working with the team. He was drilling it into the owners of this company, like that it's so important to figure out how to work on the business and not work in the business if you want to be able to grow it. Now, as fractionals, we are the business. We're working on it. We're working in it. We're doing all those things, right? And we know that, and we take that on as a soloist. But our customers are sometimes, especially if you're working with founders in tech, or if you're getting outside of tech, where you find much more in the way of owner operator, then it is a challenge to help them see that vision of, look, this is where a fractional can come in and help you just take that part off your plate, whatever that is. And all these different hats that we might wear in a full-time role, we can just do some of those, and we can help you do the part that you're not expert at, or that you don't want to spend time being expert at because you need to do the other thing.
I looked into, just to tie it back to something Michael said earlier, I came across this thing called EOS, or Entrepreneur Operating System, and it made a lot of sense to me. It's for I would say non-technical owner operators, and it helps explain the difference between a visionary and an integrator. So what I heard you describe, Michael, was you need to be paired up with a visionary, as do I, because I am lacking the sales skills. But I view myself firmly as an integrator, meaning we've got the idea. I'll get all the stuff done behind the scenes. You go out in the front and sell it. And when I read the book and it talked about visionary and you know what the traits are, and I was like, that's definitely I might have some of them, but not to a large degree. And then when I read the integrator, I was like, oh yes, like almost 100% check down the line. So
Yeah.
that might be something for you to look into. Um, just to further your like you add these things into your own mental framework, and I was like, yeah, these really work and fit.
Going back to the types, I think there's a distinct lack though of like the sort of research and science based thing. So this
Yeah.
idea, so it's usually not, I have yet to see in a while. It's been a while that I've seen a company that's like straight doing almost scientific research level computer engineering or computer science.
Yeah.
And that is, you know, I think a lot of us are wanting that. I think we're really just in a weird place where no one's spending money on research. You saw the laws are even changing or whatever, and they were kind of gaming the research to just do services work or whatever it was. But you think about like everyone brings up the Bell Labs of the previous eras or these kind of like lab like things. That's also where the CTO should. There's also that idea that the CTO is driving research, not just the most prolific coder, because now that's just worth nothing basically if you believe what the AI. So there's these high profile. I had an idea, coded it up over the weekend, and then throw it to the product teams. That's pretty much over if you believe the hype on AI. And so hopefully maybe there'll be this more like serious taking large sums of money and putting it behind more like science and research. And then they're going to need fractional people to come in and handle sales, like field CTO, business CTO, or whatever. I doubt they'll do fractional science, but that would be really sick too. You want to research this and come up, but I think there's IP issues with that and things. Like the whole point is take a bunch of smart people, give them a bunch of money, let them work, like kind of like they did to Claude Shannon, like just hang out here, do whatever you want. But if you come up with anything cool, we own it. And on top of that, if anyone has math questions, you have to help them. Like I would be like, sign me up. Like, right. There's not a lot of that happening right now.
Well, I speaking on the hype of AI and being somebody who's used it recently to build an MVP for clients, right? While I respect and very much enjoy the advancements in each of the models as they're coming from a coding standpoint, right? I also see the fact that those folks who are doing that without the years of experience in writing code themselves, there is such a gap in I don't want to say knowledge. It is knowledge, but it just leaves open all these questions. So you got a non-technical person who does a no-code solution. It works. No, take that away from them, right? But there's so many questions unanswered. And it just kind of fits right into sort of the little bit of the niche I've been exploring with customers, which is, running a company, being a business owner, trying to do a thing, it's extremely isolating. Even if you have a bunch of friends, a bunch of family, things like that, especially if have a modicum of success as a business owner, as a small business owner, it's extremely isolating because you can't talk to your friends.
Right.
Right. And there's not a great chance that your friend group that you've had forever is also a bunch of successful business people, right? That matches that. So my kids go to school, private school here locally, and I met this guy whose kids, one of his kids is in the same grade as one of mine. And he runs, and I never even knew he existed. He runs a little company. They deal a lot with Texas title data for properties. It's a big thing,
Yep.
right? Title insurance, business in Texas is a big deal. So he deals with a lot of that data, and he actually runs a company doing it while also being invested in a competitor company doing this similar stuff, right? And once he found out I knew a little bit of what he was talking about, he just kind of latched on, right? And this is the thing that I'm seeing in the whole, even in the AI. There are so many questions, and it's so isolated to be an ideas person to get something done that partnering with somebody who can give you a stronger foundation, a stronger perspective, right, is what people are actually looking for. And what's really hard to find is to find someone you can trust with that.
Yeah.
Right. And not just take your money until they're done and run. Right. Which is what the fear is. Right. You've had some success in business. Now they're going to just take a bunch of your money and not really give you much. Right. So like, I think that's a great point on, what I was making, but I just wanted to point out that there is that gap, the human gap that no AI can bridge to give you that confidence in what you're developing and what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you can build a low code product and all day long, but you're never going to get rid of some sort of technical staff.
I mean, eventually you're going to have
From there on.
to operate it, scale it, fix it, and you
Sell it.
should be.
You can't, won't sell it for you either.
You should now be busy with the rest of the business.
Yeah,
Right.
that's hopefully.
You
Like,
can play the innovator, play product, use the tools to create something. It's great. But now when you are taking on now the full job of the CEO, or, which is going to be selling, finding investment, finding partners, all the things, who's going to handle that thing? Who's going to take the thing that you built, what's only in your head and in the AI's head, and a code base, and turn it into the next thing that you need? Who's going to fix it when it breaks? When suddenly the button that they're pressing slows down and they're pushing the button over and over and over again, over and over and over and over and over again, and you get this cascading explosion of failure. Who fixes that? What happens when that cascading failure causes poorly injected data into the database? And now you got to fix the data. Right?
Yeah.
You even know
well,
how
what
to
if the AI is down? Even
Right,
just
these
the
are all
AI
actual
being
real experiences
Yeah.
I'm speaking from. So
yeah.
what
I mean-
happens when it scales?
What happens when it goes down? There's the thing that people, the magic of AI, it's still running in a bunch of data centers with a bunch of people writing Terraform and Docker anyway and Kubernetes. So
Right.
that shit's going down.
It's not running
That's
itself.
gonna go down. It's not running itself. It can't do your sales. It's just like any other SaaS right now in a way. It could spit out brilliantly, like Michael said. Kinds of code that we already knew about that we would pay people to write because it seemed complicated, and now there's not that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
reality
no
is that
more calculators,
The
as
reality is
people.
most of the code that we write is undifferentiated.
Yeah.
Right?
but-
It's
yeah,
the
why?
same
Why
as
was
someone
that?
else has written over and over and over again.
this
Whether
new?
we're, that's most of it. The differentiated code is very small. And often it's just an intersection of a couple of undifferentiated pieces that make yours stand out.
Is this new?
Yeah.
Is it new that we're seeing this, or is this not this? No, this is not new.
No,
to
this
know
is
that.
always the way it's been. It's why
Right. We just
it's
didn't have
why
a
we
way to
could-
do it.
we could hire offshore developers. We could hire cheap developers. We could hire junior straight out of school, whatever it is. Right. It's the reason we can hire that and offload that work, and we start being the people who work on the differentiating part. Right.
Even better.
We've just moved that along a little bit, but the problem is still the same. I think the opportunity is that now more people have the access to build these things that before it was only me and Steven that could build, because we're the old graybeards that were doing this stuff a long time ago and we've got enough competency, right? I don't want to accuse you of that, Michael. So I don't know you well enough. But
we theoretically might be faster than the machine, but
right. But then, now it creates opportunity for other people to come in and start to gain the experience of what happens when you push this thing into production when the button doesn't scale.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And
all you're doing is arriving them there faster.
yes.
Yeah. You're finally getting business people to understand the difficulty that you actually have trained to deal with from
Right.
day one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And ideally, they're going to say,
mentor,
wow, that was fun.
yeah.
Let
In
me
my
go back to my day job.
no, in my mentoring, what's funny is we switch from, you know, I already wasn't teaching people how to write like Docker or Terraform code or anything like no infrastructures code. What we were teaching was the fundamental concepts behind some of the stuff that won't probably change that fast. Then now all we've switched to is not how do I write a Node app, but how do I deploy one? And so, like, and you would see their brains lighting up with, like, that when we started writing a unit file to deploy a service on like Linux, they're like, "What the hell? Like, I've never seen this." And they've been, because they were using Vercel or all this stuff. So
Yeah.
I think that it's just accelerating to the real problem, right? AI is not the thing; it's the thing gets us to the thing, right? Like, so
Yeah.
all of a sudden you have an appliance, and now you don't have to spend all day washing clothes and dishes and hand cutting the grass.
What can I do now?
Yeah, well,
I was so
yeah.
busy. I never had any idea that there was something else I can do.
For some people, yeah.
And now I'm not washing the farm and the family's clothes and washing dishes all
Yeah.
day long. And I have that opportunity to step back and go, wait,
Yeah.
I can do something else with my time.
So, well,
what is it?
There's the prisoner dilemma. Like 3 people escape from prison. One person's like, I'm free. The other person's like, oh, I'm hungry. And the third person's like, man, it was way better before. I'm going back, right? Like there are going to be people, at least we had meals. Like there's some people that are going to revert to wanting to write that code because that was their comfort zone.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I've been chatting. There's a Slack group for CTOs and it's Canadian based. It's Toronto heavy. And I was talking about all the Claude Code things that I've been telling you guys about. And he's a friend of mine. He said he was hesitant to let things like Claude Code take over. He's only using Cursor and like autocomplete. And he's like, I don't know, call me old fashioned. No, he said, I still want the control of doing the autocomplete. And I said, why on earth would you want to write any code? And I don't know if I put an emoji, but he's like, I don't know, call me old fashioned.
Yeah. The takeaway isn't that
push any buttons. I'm like,
yeah,
philosophically, I want to get to the thing faster.
All right, but philosophically, from our opinion or my opinion, like if it's really just there was the value is now it's automated, but what if there's a deeper thing where none of that really was of any value? This is a deeper problem that I think people are kind of freaked out about. I mean, definitely in DevOps, we could prove that these seem complex, but complexity measured in lines of code or just size is not complexity. It's more predictability. And it tricked people for a long, because it's very unpredictable. And there was a lot of code. I think I'm not a scientist, like really, but if say someone like Nicole who did Dora or someone really looked at it, I think that you would find almost zero correlation to the code, what we call infrastructure code, and value for business. Like there's there's nothing there that shows that it somehow is better than just skilled people doing it by hand, or an automated brain clicking in Amazon would be better than it spitting out Terraform code. And this is really interesting, where if you start saying like, I don't even want you to write code, but LLMs can't do that part. That's all they do is large language. So they're not really like able, like then we're back to the sort of like agents that can read and see and then know what to do based on the not, but honestly, like a machine that just spits out the code, I mean, that was kind of like that wasn't the interesting part.
Yeah. I went through something similar with when I was running the testing teams as like an SDET. And then the whole shift left thing. I don't know if I've talked about this in here or not, but the whole shift left movement came, and there was that guy that stood on stage at Google and declared that testing was dead. And I was like, you just destroyed my entire effing industry or my entire effing career, because you were telling people that you can automate software testing, the kind that I
can't do it, even with AI.
Yeah, I know. But I was like Sherlock Holmes, right? Like I was going in and trying to actively find things. I was not trying to confirm it confirmed that it worked once. I was trying to make sure it worked all the time. And when somebody clicks the button 10 times, that 50 records don't wind up in the database. But
Still have a hard time explaining to people why we can't automate video game testing.
yeah,
Why we put people in rooms with controllers and screens and doing the things, because you cannot simulate and emulate all of the mistakes.
Can't
Yeah.
model it. You cannot model it. The thing about models is they're usually defined by the biases of the person who built it and what's left out.
Right.
And
And
so
you-
everyone makes these testing frameworks for games. The minute the customer is always going to customer is what we would say. The minute you ship your binary out and then boom, they like do something weird immediately.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot see how an AI, a large language model specifically, or anything that stems from it, can adequately mimic squishy user behavior.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's just
No, it provably can't. It cannot. It's trained on our data, and there's a big lump of it, the existing internet, and now, no, it can't. I mean, that's the whole point. It's just weight set by probabilities. It's like it's a probability engine of what would a human probability do. But if the humans are just unpredictable, like, or can creatively become unpredictable in a faster feedback loop than it takes to train the model, which it is also a lot cheaper. A human being can be like, oh, to dress in a suit is like not punk. I'm going to wear the suit now. Like just on the dime. I mean, guys like Baudrillard talk about this over and over. Like as soon as you have the thing, there's a simulation of the thing. Humans are really fast at that. The amount of hardware and stuff it takes to get these models, not to run one, but to make one, it's slow. It's just like evolution where
pretty
it
slow to
takes-
make a Steven too, though.
it would be like, but that's the whole point about humans are kind of funny because we stand at the edge of the water and we're like, well, we could evolve gills, right? How long is that going to take? Or we could use this giant brain and make a boat. And the thing is, like, we're just faster at this stuff and so this, the mining or the generative stuff is just slower. If we have a really slick thing, and if it's for people, we're actually pretty good tuned for other people. So,
I mean, I guess kind of going back there to your
sorry,
point,
that was wild.
I've got tons. This just kind of adds to what you're saying, Steven. I've got tons of videos I've watched on TikTok of people who are utilizing AI to try to beat some old school games. Like you see me wearing my Zelda shirt, right?
Yeah.
Like watching these AIs try to play Mario is amazing,
Yeah.
right? It's bad, but it's amazing, right? And they're doing a form they're doing the form of artificial intelligence, which is the genetic algorithms. Like each evolution of the run, right? What was good, what was bad. You the farther you get, the selective reasoning there that it uses is the fastest way. And yet compared to probably what a 6, 7, 8-year-old child's brain playing Mario, right? So slow in comparison to that.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what I was saying. It takes 8 years to get an 8-year-old human, but look how, if you do the full technical object of these AIs, including the training and the resources and the GPUs and the data center and the blah blah blah, it's actually much cheaper to just have kids. And
Right.
Like I mean,
That-
honestly,
Yeah. Yep. We humans are still the cheaper AI to train.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's what we're saying here. What a wild thing to say on a fractional. Like that's why. But I think I've come to this conclusion that it's easier for me to just train people on fundamentals and then let their brain fill in the rest than it is to try. I mean, we saw this early, like anyone who was looking at the early, like 2015, looking at the jump from say like University of Waterloo or whatever that thing was, where all of a sudden AI jumped again. Everyone looked at how could this affect managing systems, right? Like DevOps, whatever. Google had a whole team for that. Everyone looked at it. Nah, not much. It's easier to just train people. Like if you just took a bunch of, and there's the social, but you take a bunch of out of work people or maybe bedridden people or whoever, and you could train them on stuff that they could do this work and manage these systems, or you're trying to remove people from the equation and make the smart right. That's see you in 100 years. This one's kind of like, I mean, I don't know, just it's a
Yeah.
choice. So
I just tend to think of it like you. I tend to think of it in a similar vein to like in 2015 or 2016, 2017, I was warning the company I worked for here locally. Their headquarters is here. And now they're a national company. Like I was warning them, hey, your IT department's all here. And you're relying on Stephen Austin State University primarily for your people in computer science, for your new software developers. Well, aside from the problems with that, right? The education that they were getting and what they weren't trained in, the biggest thing was within a year of starting at Elliott, companies in Dallas and Houston and Shreveport, all over the place, were essentially looking at who was working for Elliott through LinkedIn and picking them up within a year at a much higher salary.
well,
Because they were embracing remote.
well, welcome to the biggest reason why no one hires juniors. This is the real unsaid reason. They're like literally like, I don't want to be the feeder for every other company.
100%.
That's all it is. That's literally why. What a crass,
I mean,
effed up thing.
there's a lot of reasons, but that is one of them.
It is real though. To Michael's point,
When you get to the point where you can hire juniors, because remember, you shouldn't always hire juniors. But when you get to the point when you can hire juniors, because it is an investment, you have to train them, you have to spend time. As soon as you do, you start to realize that when you train them, they're going to leave.
or you didn't pay them enough. I mean, there's ways to keep people around, but
there are
You
ways
have
to
enough
do
so
it.
they don't
Absolutely.
leave.
I mean, in tattooing, they say you have to be apprentice or we're going to break all your fingers. Right. Like, I mean, but I mean, maybe we bring that back, but like, but you have to spend time. If you've apprenticed somewhere,
Right.
you have to spend the time in the shop to pay back what it costs them to apprentice you. I'm very much against non-competes, right? Those things, because they've been, but
Incentivize them other ways.
right.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of companies that hire people and then are investing, and I'm seeing it again now. I'm seeing it a little bit, mainly because if you mentor people, you see them take their journey and then they get adopted by someone who just likes them, and then they continue their learning. So it's very rewarding that way. But like,
But that right there, Stephen, is actually the cure. That's actually the pill for what we're talking about in that regard.
yeah, I believe that.
The good mentorship, what it goes back to is it goes back to the whole idea of people don't leave jobs because of money. People leave jobs because of a bad manager. Like it's
A growth.
like the people above,
all sorts of things. Yeah.
And if as a manager, and I'm talking about at all levels here, right? If you're a good mentor, it's really hard to be a bad manager.
You could, but you have to try. But I mean,
You gotta try, right?
I
Because
think-
in one breath, like as a good mentor, you're saying, hey, like you're helping these people build confidence. You're showing them how to solve problems. You're not teaching them how to code, right? And then if you're going to turn around and go, but now you got to work 12 hours, and I want to know everything you're doing.
No. I think you just answered your own question, which is calling it managing and not calling it mentor. The senior distinguished mentor would actually be way more fitting in engineering because it's journeyman style apprenticing. Like we saw this like 20 years ago, like in tech is an apprentice system, or it should be. Managing like we're doing labor of building sewing machines, and they're like, how many hours did you work? Why weren't you at work? This goes on VP engineering, right? All this stuff. I mean, you're hitting on. I mean, David right now is like in a way creating space for mentoring here, right? This is the whole point. Like, who mentors the mentors kind of thing. So sorry. Yeah. I think you're right, Michael. Like managing.
Your example of having the juniors stick around. I totally had forgotten about this. In this, hopefully this doesn't seem controversial, but back in the early 2000s, I was working deep in the virtualization space, so moving physical machines to virtual machines and then back again, etc. And the VMware certification had just come out, and we were deep in VMware, and at the time it was Microsoft's version. I forget the name of it back then, but they changed the name. Anyway, my boss, we all wanted to get VMware certified because we thought it would be great for our careers and also great for the company. But my boss also knew this and that people with the certification were in demand. So we were allowed to take the training, but we had to sign something that said if we left within 6 months, we had to pay back like a prorated amount of the training, because it was totally feasible that somebody, once they put that certification on their resume, would get snatched up and then leave the company. And I just remembered that scenario now as we were talking. What do you think of that? What do you think of that as an idea?
I mean, I still think that's a little bit of a Band-Aid, like just that. Like people don't leave just because they took that training and someone offered them more. I think it's a little
Yeah.
more holistic. That's why I said I think a lot of our I think there's a kind of an elephant in the room that your boss, you're never really at work allowed to tell people what it's like to work there. And the only way to get raises is to move jobs. Like
Like,
this is it's a little deeper than that, but yeah.
Generally speaking, there is a disincentive to businesses as an entity to retain and keep employees.
Yeah. I
Because
think it's
that's
mutual. Yeah.
the things that make an employee happy in their job aren't necessarily the things that align with keeping the business going and growing.
100%.
And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's to the detriment of the business, but sometimes it's not. And that's rough, right? How do we manage that? This is the people management part of that is like, how do you massage that relationship of here are the goods, the needs of the business for all the good, bad, ugly, evil, whatever this may be, and here are the needs of the people, the person, the individual, and how do we help bridge that gap constantly? And that's what we tend to suck at.
Fractional. Fractional is how you solve it,
Yeah.
which is I am
Get rid of
really good.
Yes.
I'm really good at my job, but I'm a freaking terrible employee. So you can get me to help you
I can
and
help
not
you
really
and
hire me.
never have to manage
Yeah.
me.
Do I
Yeah.
believe in your mission? No, not at all. That's why I'm good at what I
Do I
do.
care if you're in it for a mission or for profit? No,
But-
because I'm in it for profit. Thanks.
Stephen, you mentioned. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
No, go ahead.
Stephen, you were talking about the journeyman process, though. That was what brought that piece up where nobody's hiring juniors because they just get trained up and then leave for a better place. So, could you imagine writing something into their contract? Like,
Well, yeah, maybe contracts. Yes, absolutely. But you have to eat the whole thing. So I think that one is just admitting there's an apprentice system there. We're not having to invent something new. And then adopting that would be, I mean, if anyone's watching this, man, that might be your answer right now. That would be the most killer thing to try at your company. And so,
Yeah.
but something soft though, and very and willing, because it's like, it's not debt peonage. It's not slavery or anything like that. You
Yeah.
can't really, it's still America
You-
where you should
there
be able
has
to
to
work
be-
wherever.
There has to be a reasonable out,
yeah,
right? And you can't say you're stuck here. You have to buy from the company store. You have to, you
Yeah.
only earn company script. But there should be a good incentive system. And honestly, for public companies, RSU grants are a good way to make this work, right?
Yeah, we work on incentives, not
Because now, let's see, you sign day one as an apprentice, and you've got a 5-year vest on this thing, right? And you spend 5 years in your apprenticeship, and at the end of that apprenticeship, you now have the opportunity to move to journeyman if you decide to stay here. And on that other side of journeyman, you see what that next 5 years is, right? And on that end, now you're 10 years into your career and you're master. Right. I mean, I'm just making some.
No, that's
calculations and
basically how it
terms.
works.
But and you see that in advance. You can see that you have that opportunity, and that this is something that everyone else. And this is the challenge that we face by not being a licensed engineering organization, where that electricians and plumbers and everybody else who has in the trades, right, you have, or licensed engineers, whatever, is that there is this enforcement of that. Because if there was an enforcement that says, well, you're 5 years into your apprenticeship and you start somewhere else, well, great. If you finished your apprenticeship, maybe you can come in, or policies, lots of problems around it. But if you can do something like that, if you show them the clear progression, if you give them the opportunity for progression, downside is most tech companies aren't going to last 5 years.
Yeah, no, that's some of the answer. Also, the whole in the US, we tend to do incentives instead of punitives or things. So we don't fine people. We give people incentives to stop the behavior. That's just sort of a weird cultural thing. And so I think the other part is incentives are usually how you would do it. Like you said, it's not that if you leave, you have to pay back or we're going to come after you. It's more like if you stay, you get this, this, and this. And then the other thing is, I mean, Steve Jobs and all them got criminally charged and convicted, right? Or whatever on, you can't do the whole, usually in the old school or whatever, they'd say there'd be another person, the other company you'd go to is just another journeyman who's also training people. So why would he do that? But also maybe there's the thing where it's cooperation will beat competition. And so fine, you're here. If you don't like it here, I would recommend you go work with David, honestly. Like, and so I think there's, again, incentive is if you ever feel like you're done here, let me, like, I just get the right of first refusal.
Find your next place.
Let me tell you where I think you should go. And then you're real, because are you telling me to F off? Like the whole thing's met, or you just, we're not meeting your needs anymore.
This is the opposite of all of the anti-poaching agreements, right?
Bingo. Yeah.
That we'll just say the Valley had, right? And where everyone agreed, we won't take from you, and we won't take from you, and you won't take from us. And as long as that was honored, then everybody kind of played along, and it had its own challenges. But the opposite of that would be instead say, hey, we are cooperative. When we recognize that a person is not working here, it doesn't mean that they can't work.
And maybe
they'll work better for you. So let's have our occasional meetings of leaders and say, hey, you've got a team member that's not working out. I've got a team member that's not working out. This guy's too senior for my team, and I don't have a role for him. He's stepping on all of my staff engineers. Maybe he fits somewhere in your org.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I highly encourage y'all to check out the German Journeyman program. It's very interesting. The one where they make them wear the floppy hats and the bell bottoms. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
The Swiss have one in their trades where they've got to wear
like medieval outfits and go around. Yeah. So we talk about this idea of maybe migratory, like sort of almost like junior migrant groups that go and help you with your basically table stakes infrastructure stuff is a very interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the more human approach to what people are selling the AI for. And I think discussions like this are interesting because I'd be like, look, man, or look, whoever, you can go anywhere you want. I recommend you go to David or Adam or Michael because I feel like they hold our same principles, right?
Yeah.
And that, but it's not we're not trading people here. We're not doing the thing where we're like trading your paperwork. This is nothing like that. We're just recommending, but because you can do whatever. Or if you do go on your own, that's also we're launching other people and it grows no matter what, right? So, I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I like that.
Yep.
I got to bail. This was amazing. I don't know. You said there's no rules, right?
We're talking about whatever's on people's minds.
I tried some stuff that you coached on, David, though, and we didn't really talk about it. But if you ever, I don't know if you have time. Otherwise, next week it'd be cool to talk about the hours
I do have
versus
time
not
today
hours.
if you want to, or if you've got to drop, we can catch it up some other time.
Let me look. I mean, I can go like 10 more minutes. All I was going to say is there's this thing that's the perpetual problem of like hours versus value-based work and all that. I mean, I'll just be honest. You gave me a little bit of courage, right? Like it's not been the easiest 3 years. And like I said, you lead with services. Services are usually defined in hours of like your time and all that. But who's to say you can't just one day go, no, we're just value-based pricing.
Right.
And that's it. Like take it or leave it kind of thing. That's really difficult.
It is. And it really takes a push to make a change at any time. And it's always a risk. So when you take the risk of making a change, you need to do it intentionally. You need to look at, okay, where are we? Which is why I like to make that recommendation for people when they've already feeling successful,
Yeah.
right? When they're busy, when they're turning work down, that's the perfect time to experiment, honestly, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
When you have a full load, right? It is time for you to, quote, increase your prices.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or try something new.
Try
Or try
new,
something
right?
different.
Take
right?
on risk, right? Risk. Do something risky.
You're running around the same concept when you talk about the value-based pricing versus hourly-based pricing. It's time to do something a little bit different because in theory, you can still, if you've done it correctly, you can still afford, you could lose half your clients. So if half the people go, right? Well, if you move towards something better for yourself, then that's exactly what you wanted to do. You wanted to shed that half.
When I made a major price shift, and this was not at a time I could take the risk. I mean, I could take the risk, but I couldn't take the risk, right? But sometimes you make the change because you're done doing the old thing.
Yeah.
And it's not even about the risk.
Yeah. That
About
was what.
needing change, right? When I made that change, I turned down 6, 8 projects. I had nothing in the works, right? But those projects would have paid me over the span of 6 months what I charged one client for 1 month worth
Yeah.
of,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. You got to make
And
these trade offs.
just by saying, I'm going to set, this is my cap. I'm not charging less than this for this amount of work. And it's 4 times what most people are saying that they're doing the work for.
Yeah.
But it meant I only needed one customer, and I was good for, it gave me 6 months with that customer, it gave me 2 years of runway.
Yeah.
And I could have taken the work and I wouldn't have landed that customer.
The learning, here's the punchline from mine. We just spent 10 years or 20 years and billions of dollars to convince companies that a SaaS is a thing.
Right.
And I go to them and I say, you're just going to pay me this much for the month. And they're like, no, we don't do that here. I'm like, you absolutely do that everywhere. What the hell? It's just that you just don't like that ChatGPT might be $20 $100 a month, and this is more like tens of thousands a month. But but you do absolutely do this. You do value-based pricing. That was what we've trained you to do.
Right.
But
Yeah.
somehow you say services or contractor or I did read your post, David, about consultant doesn't mean it just gets completely in the weeds about the meaning of words, the work for hire IP versus what you have. I mean, it's just the nightmare begins. But
Right.
at least you take that initial step to say, look, we do value-based pricing and my to this group. I believe that for 5 years we've proven that a month is a beautiful thing. A monthly based scope and delivery. I
Yep.
mean, you could take a bigger project and slice it up, but you should always be on the hook agreement wise. We should talk at the beginning of the month, and then we do some work.
Let's talk
And
1 month sprints.
right. And you could decide whether you want to continue like that way, but we should still say that we agree to before we would end a 1 year. We need something a little more stable so that we're not having to like ditch you, just like you wouldn't want to get ditched. We don't want to ditch you. You need
Yeah.
a 1 year or 6 months, something that you can plan on and maybe even hire or whatever to get something done. There's some things about it, but that value-based pricing, I think we just call it a SaaS. I mean, it was just only we call it services as software, but it's
Right.
basically the same thing. And you've already been trained. So don't tell me you don't do that.
Right.
You're just trying to treat us like contractors and hourly. And I don't know what hourly
Reminding
does
them that
anymore.
they never bought an hour.
Yeah, what does that even
Right?
mean?
They
Yeah.
say, "Oh, well, what's your hourly price?" I'm like, "What? Are you only ever going to buy 1 hour?
Right.
You know.
What good did that do?"
Like, and that I've been kind of doing this. I've been kind of doing this now for, well, I guess since I started contracting consulting, right? Not gonna lie, a bunch of my work has come through LinkedIn and through specifically a bunch of them as job applications where the recruiter was open to C2C,
Yeah.
things like that, right? And it's the same conversation every time. And you're right, it's a hard conversation, right? Well, are
Get
you
better
available
at it.
40 hours? Tell me about what you're trying to do,
Yeah.
right? Well, here's some more info. Yeah, I have availability to do that, right? And the hard part about it is it's been every week or every month coming to terms with the client, ends up being coming to terms with the client. Like, what are you looking for? What are your goals? Okay, this is what I think can reasonably be achieved in that time period. right? And they're like, okay, great. The hours thing is only to establish it, with almost all of these companies. It's to establish a closeness to the payroll systems they're already used to having
right.
with their
Yeah.
employees.
Yep.
And two, to give some sort of baseline to somebody to try to understand what can reasonably be achieved in a week's period.
Yeah, it's mitigate risk. But how does locking in too many hours for someone who isn't even want to commit to hours at a price for a year, how is that how is that less risky than saying, how about we just do a couple months where you just pay us and you see, like, what's crazy is how much they're willing to hang on to it, Michael, like cold dead
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And like amount of approvals, what I'll do is I'll take this as a compliment to ourselves that, like, if I have to get like basically board level approval, no one works like this. What are you doing? Blah. I'm like, cool, we're doing something right. Because why have your own company and be doing this if you're not shaking everything
Please
up?
let me talk to the board.
That's what, I mean, yeah, right. Like I can't wait for this. This process is taking a long time because it's just like, God, you guys are just. It's just everything's a minefield with you. Like it's almost like you're changing everything about two companies working together. I'm like, and you ask what we do, right?
And I'm
Like
doing
maybe
something right.
that's what we do, right? Like because the nature of it is all this has been papering over. What is the nature of the work we do?
Right.
Yeah.
How do you see it, measure it, whether they call it developer productivity or a contractor agreement? And then finally, like how there's very different systems of valorization for that. Like they can look at if you say, okay, so Steven worked 30 hours. What are you going to compare that to some Terraform code? Like, how is Terraform even measured of what it did?
30 hours of Terraform.
And you add it, 30 hours of Terraform, like, those equations, like, and then you add in the AI, like 30 hours of Steven talking to the AI to make some, like, good luck. Map that to me. Show me how you're accounting. Like, no. And so basically we're back to eyeballing it. Like, what is this? Does it feel like you delivered value? I think like you, David, there's a lot more coaching, mentoring, teaching, and then some hard skill stuff. And it's even better if I don't even type. I just tell someone what to type. These things are very interesting, but man, is this normalized? Not at all still.
Yeah.
I don't know why every single company in the world went to that one business school where they, soon as you say, I don't want full time, they try to get you on a contract. How many hours? There's like nickel and diming hours. You're like, this is like going to the dollar store being like, man, this food was so cheap. I'm like, I wouldn't eat that. Like that's not the point. What are you doing? Like you're already making this inhumane and alien.
Sorry, McDonald's. I only wanted 7 of those French.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But like, why?
You put 12 in this bucket. No, I wanted 7.
We're here to help you. Where is this like sort of like contrarian? Like, since when is hiring outside of your company folks to help you like a war that you're trying to get them for the lowest? Like, what happened? What happened? Who's hiring you?
It's ingrained though, man. Like it's corporate culture, right?
Yeah, where does that come from?
That corporate culture has been building, and I think if you listen to anybody who talks about culture shift in any respect, right? It is one of the most difficult things to do is to be on the forefront of the wave that is shifting some kind of culture, right?
Yeah, it is. Excuse my French. Yeah.
It's super difficult to do. And that's what you're fighting against. You're actually fighting against 50 plus years of mentality in corporate America that people who are employees, right? They don't work in value. They work in terms of hours. And that's what the people want, right?
Yeah.
Because
At will.
Yeah.
There's still a bunch of people who are asleep who do want that way. And so when you have folks who can really help you who don't think that way, they think more like your bosses, they think more like the CEOs, they think more like the board, right? Now you've got to be like, well, what do I do here, right? Because I'm hiring a person. And that's the first thing I tend to shift away from people is, brother, you're not hiring a person, right? You're hiring my company, right? Even if
that's
you're getting
first sign,
right? Like
first
that's That's the start, right?
Yeah.
And from there, you start turning into, I've got to run a business somehow, and I've got to make money. And now you start putting it in terms that business people understand, right? And a business to business
Yeah,
relationship.
they just don't
And the
understand.
conversation gets to be a little bit easier at that point.
Yeah.
Not easy, but easier.
Yeah, these companies, like, what I'm finding is it's not even they went to that 50-year business school. They like saw it on TV. Like, so it's not even like really real. It's just like it's sort of like a thing people learn, like to play the manager, and that's what they think they want. But it's actually turns out to be really toxic. And I guess some feedback to basically to David about this is one of the things that's really interesting is I think more and more there's some of us like Michael said, we go and apply to jobs. We find out that it's everything's a great fit except for how we're going to trade money for services. And that is actually very broken. And I think there's not enough conversations about that. I felt very alone and we're trying to navigate that. But instead of out there street fighting, it's almost like, how can we practice these things or talk about them more to release the taboo? Because I think that one of the things that could really help is these middle managers not pretending to be the business person,
Right.
but just giving up on that and say, how would you do it? Because other people I talk to, they're like, literally, we do exactly what you're saying all the time. Is that even a question? I talked to someone in the Bay. They're like, wait, yeah, it's always monthly base. I have all these contractors, like, we don't track any hours. Of course you did that. And other people are like, I need it $104. Like, what are you doing? Like, per hour? Like, I already told you. So I think this is an interesting it's evolving because the work's evolved.
Well, if you think back to what we were talking about earlier, the apprentice model, right? And you mentioned the trades.
Yeah.
I was just sitting here thinking, like, when I have a contractor come to my house to price me on something, they price me on value and then they turn around and pay their employees hourly. And I was like,
Yeah,
they're paid,
that's your job.
Or they pay their subcontractors hourly.
Yeah.
right.
And
That's where I'm on the other side of things. When I'm on the other side of things, and I've got to think about it in proper terms too. Like, I have the plumber come out, which is a plumbing company, right? And like, here's a great example we've had recently. We had an issue with. Thought I had an issue with water pressure with my tankless, so I had them come out, and they were supposed to look at it. They did, and they thought, well, maybe it's this piece within there, right? So they called the manufacturer. The manufacturer's like, hey, replace the flow regulator first. So they replaced the flow regulator. Well, when they replace the flow regulator, it breaks another one of the regulators in there, right? And so they're like, oh, we got to order that, right? So they order that, right? And they replace it, and it doesn't work. It doesn't fix it. So the manufacturer's like, hey, that model is one that we know sometimes has that issue. Now that they're doing that, so we're gonna warranty the whole unit because it's still under warranty. So, but the plumber's telling me, right, it's gonna cost you $1,100 now for us to install the new one,
right?
Plus the time we've spent there already. And I called the local service manager. I'm like, dude, I called you out to tell me what's wrong with my water pressure. And now I have to get a new heater. I didn't break my freaking water heater. Right?
If anything, they did.
Like,
right.
The manufacturer did, technically, by telling them to do these things that they probably shouldn't have done this unit. And he's like, no, I totally get it. Like, you're right. Like, can we split the difference? Right? And I was like, yes. So I split the difference with him.
Yeah. That's reasonable.
Right? That's being understanding of the value, like, without even, but I did make the argument. I had to say, I did make the argument with him, like, dude, your guys were out there for about 3 hours in total before this, and your guys are out there, like, your guys are going to be out there for maybe 2 or 3 hours putting the new one in. So, like, I get about $100 an hour. It looks to be about $800 total to me at $100 an hour. I know you're a little bit more than that, right? But also, like, it still is a sort of measure for value for some people, especially in the trades.
The time and labor. Right. Yeah, trades. But if it's tech, you should have been like, I just need to, can we just roll back? we use Nix, right, on our plumbing. Just do rollback,
Just roll back.
like because that always works, right? Like just roll back. But there's nothing different. I think the trades also have this issue, but I see this plumber and this electrician at my local cafe all the time, and I ask them, "How do you make your money?" And they're like, "It's all calls. Like we don't get paid unless we go on site." And I was like, and he's telling me about this circuit that keeps flipping at a hot yoga studio, and I was like, "Have you thought about putting one of those panels in that has the internet on it that you can just monitor it?" And he's like, "Yes." And I was like, "But then you'd have to switch to charging them a subscription." He's like, "No customer's ever going to do that."
I pay
Right?
a subscription to my air conditioning company.
See, I think it's happening now, but the problem is like people think like Michael, those guys, those folks come on site and you're spending the time. But as we start to have better systems, right? I think that not just cameras, but sensors and all this are helping us have better feedback loops about the things. And then it's not just a feedback loop of that's just like shipping the code by hand to the production, right?
There
We can
is
automate
a poor example, but we do see more and more of car maintenance work being not maintenance but repair work being done under extended warranty contracts.
Yeah.
Right. So
Because
now
they
these
know.
are insurance policies, if in effect, right, that you're buying. My air conditioning service, right, for instance, that is an insurance policy, and I pay monthly, yearly, or I buy 5 years of purchase and then extend it for this flat rate, and it covers with a truck roll fee and things of that nature, right? But it covers the repair, and
Yeah.
that
Sounds like a retainer.
exactly, and that way now, if something goes wrong, but they're always getting paid too. That's the difference, right? If I don't have any problem this year, they got paid.
Well, because they did
Which is
something.
important.
Yeah, they
because
did something.
especially in those AC things, like AC and plumbing's a little bit harder just because I know that industry. I don't want to know that industry, but I do know about the poop pipes. Um, and AC, especially like what that does, that whole idea of, especially if you can buy the insurance or essentially the monthly subscription to pay for service on your thing, if that comes from the manufacturer,
This
right?
is not, but yeah.
So, when
But they
those
do
things
get the
happen through
backup part of it
manufacturer,
with the manufacturer warranty on parts.
yeah,
Okay.
it also incentivizes them, even with a warranty on parts or anything else. That whole thing incentivizes them to go back to building things the way they were used to and not using substandard parts.
Right.
Because the more service they have to do, the more it costs them
Exactly.
against that
Yeah.
insurance.
So it's exactly the same on the computers. Let's put it this way. People want to pay you because something broke and you fix it. That is not what we're doing anymore. What you're doing is you're paying me to hold the risk.
Yes.
I'm holding the risk. So I still might have to charge you to come out and fix it. Like this is where people are like, you're double dipping, but like this is more so to pay us where it's not like, it's not like life insurance where we're actually doing models and betting on your infrastructure to not go down. No, nothing like that. I'm just saying though that like if we have to build it, that's like maybe hourly work. Sure, whatever. But then after that, you keep paying because who's going to hold the risk? Like David, you don't want to hold the risk of your air conditioner going out. So you're paying someone else to hold that risk.
Right.
Just like we pay the bank to hold the risk of a mortgage or any kind of security, right? And so what this is I think we can make the case soon that tech is something where you're not just paying me to fix and come out. You're paying me to hold risk on things that I could be responsible for. And it works even better because you don't understand that. Anyway, like plumbing, these are the true
And
trades, right? It becomes a trade.
Unlike plumbing, electrical, air conditioning, where the context switch is relatively cheap, right? If I've got 100 customers and 100 different plumbing installations, everyone's unique, but they all work the same.
Yeah.
Our stuff, that context is really expensive to maintain.
It can be
Yeah.
if you do it a certain way. If you use DevOps, it can be. But if you don't use DevOps, or what was DevOps, that's a whole different topic. But I agree.
Yeah. And so you also have to pay us to just stay active in your environment and know what it is, so that when it's time to come fix a broken pipe, we know what the pipe is.
Yeah, exactly. Like this story, because I gotta go. Is like
I gotta
call,
drop, guys.
Yeah, all right.
I gotta go.
You call the guy. They come in. They take a hammer. They hit one part of the ship, and everything works. And they say 20 grand. And he's like, "Oh my god! Like we came out for like 2 minutes." He's like, "Well, it was $40 to come out for the 2 minutes. It was like the rest to know where to hit that ship with
Exactly.
the hammer.
Yep.
And this is like, so you're with these what are seen as complex. I disagree maybe there too, but what are seen as complex systems that break in really novel and complex ways, including the context switch and all this tech. You're really, maybe there's a way to sell this to say it's a retainer, which is what you said. Insurance and retainer are getting really close. Like these words are starting to be like retainer insurance, but it's you. I'll hold the risk for you, and I'm your person, or at least to Michael's point, we are your people. And now this is, and me and Michael talked about this too on a local level, where you could get local firms to just do IT this way, but it's the same at the level you're at or whatever. With it, I think it's interesting to just say we'll hold your risk. And they're like, what does that mean? And it's like, this is why you pay us monthly.
Yep.
Not to come out. It doesn't cover a call to fix. It's not like I fix it and I take a couple, like I don't give you the beer and take a couple of dollars off your little pile like they do in Pittsburgh. Like this isn't what it is. It's not that kind of retainer. It's you're paying me to hold your risk. And if something does go wrong, then that's it. And if nothing goes wrong, I didn't do nothing.
Yep.
Right.
Interesting. Anyway, that was feedback I wanted to give you like that.
Cool. I appreciate it.
This is live shit in a way. I don't know. We'll see.
Thanks, everybody. It's been good. And we'll see everybody next week, hopefully.
Yeah. Good to see you, Michael.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.